Commander Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense. His ship, the Aurora, had been mapping empty space for 3 months. Nothing but dark void and distant stars, but now his sensors were picking up something impossible. "Lisa, come look at this," Jake called to his science officer. Dr. Lisa Carter floated over in the zero gravity of the ship's research lab. She was one of the best minds in the galaxy when it came to old civilizations. Her job was to study the ruins that ancient humans had left behind on dozens of worlds. "What is it, Commander?" she asked, grabbing a handle near his station. Jake pointed at the energy readings. "These patterns. I've never seen anything like them. But they feel familiar somehow." Lisa looked at the data for a long moment. Her face went pale. "Jake, run a comparison with the archives. Search for pre-war human technology signatures." Jake's fingers moved across his controls. The computer began its search through thousands of years of stored data. When the results came back, both officers stared in shock. 97% match, Jake whispered. "But that's impossible. This is where Earth used to be." Everyone in the galaxy knew the story. 5,000 years ago, humanity had lived on a small blue planet called Earth. Then one day, the entire solar system vanished. No explosion, no debris, nothing. Just empty space where a star and 9 planets used to exist. The humans who had been living on other worlds suddenly found themselves alone. They were scattered across the galaxy with no home to return to. Most other species saw them as refugees, useful for their ability to adapt but not very advanced in technology. Lisa pushed herself toward the communication panel. "I need to contact Captain Bennett immediately." Captain Roy Bennett commanded the survey ship Guardian. He was responsible for investigating anything unusual in this sector of space. When Lisa's urgent message reached him, he ordered his ship to change course immediately. 2 days later, both ships floated near the coordinates where Earth's sun should have been. Roy, Jake, and Lisa stood on the Guardian's main bridge, looking at the readings from both ships. "It's definitely artificial," Roy said, studying the data. "Something is creating these energy patterns, but I don't see anything out there." Lisa had been working nonstop since they arrived. She looked tired but excited. "Captain, I think I know what we're looking at. These energy signatures match more than just old human technology. They match the most advanced human technology we've ever found." "What do you mean?" Roy asked. "Before Earth disappeared, humans were working on something called temporal field generators. We found references to them in ruins on New Mars. The theory was that you could create a bubble in spacetime that would be separate from normal space." Jake looked confused. "You mean like a pocket universe?" "Not exactly," Lisa explained. "More like a hiding place. Somewhere you could put something so that it would be invisible and unreachable from the outside." Roy was quiet for a moment. "Are you saying that Earth might still be there? Hidden somehow?" "I think it's possible," Lisa said. "But if I'm right, then whoever is inside that field has been there for 5,000 years. And if they're still alive..." She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. 5,000 years was a long time for any civilization to develop. Roy made his decision. "I'm calling this in to Admiral Phillips. This is too big for a survey mission." Admiral Kate Phillips was known throughout the Galactic Survey Corps for her calm thinking and quick decisions. When she received Roy's report, she immediately ordered a full investigation fleet to the location. The fleet that arrived 3 weeks later was the largest scientific expedition in recent galactic history. 5 research ships, 2 military escorts, and specialists from a dozen different species. Admiral Phillips commanded from her flagship, the Endeavour. Dr. Sam Watson was among the scientists who joined the expedition. He was a quantum physicist who specialized in space-time manipulation. When he saw the data that Lisa had collected, he became very excited. "This is incredible," Sam told the Admiral during their first meeting. "The energy field we're detecting is perfectly spherical. It has a radius of exactly 40 astronomical units, which would include everything out to Pluto's orbit if this really is Earth's solar system." "Can we get through it?" Admiral Phillips asked. "I don't think so," Sam replied. "Not from the outside. The field is too stable, too perfect, but what, Doctor?" "The energy levels are fluctuating slightly. It's very small, but the changes are regular, almost like someone is adjusting the field from the inside." Admiral Phillips felt a chill run down her spine. "You think someone is still alive in there?" "If they are, they would have experienced time differently than we have. Depending on how the field is configured, they might have experienced much more time than the 5,000 years that have passed out here. The Admiral stared out at the empty space where a star system should be. Somewhere in that invisible sphere, there might be humans who had been developing their civilization for far longer than anyone imagined. Over the next several days, the fleet took detailed measurements of the field. They tried every method they could think of to communicate with whatever was inside. Radio signals, gravitational waves, quantum pulses, nothing seemed to get through. Then, on the 7th day of their investigation, something changed. Dr. Watson was monitoring his instruments when the reading suddenly spiked. "Admiral, the field is destabilizing." Throughout the fleet, alarms began sounding. The perfectly smooth energy field that had surrounded the area for millennia was beginning to fluctuate wildly. "Is it collapsing?" Admiral Phillips asked. "No," Sam said, his voice filled with amazement. "Someone is shutting it down. From the inside." As the investigation fleet watched, the invisible barrier that had hidden Earth for 5,000 years began to fade. Whatever was behind it was about to be revealed. And based on the energy readings they were detecting, whoever was inside had become something far more advanced than the humans who had disappeared so long ago. The galaxy was about to change forever. Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching history unfold. The invisible barrier that had hidden Earth's solar system for 5,000 years was dissolving before their eyes. Energy levels dropping steadily, reported Dr. Sam Watson from his monitoring station. "Whatever they're doing in there, it's controlled. Deliberate." The Admiral nodded, trying to stay calm despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly, recording every detail of the event. This moment would be studied for generations. "Fleet status report," she ordered. "All ships maintaining safe distance," came the reply from her communications officer. "Standing by for your orders, Admiral." As the barrier continued to fade, something began to appear in the empty space ahead of them. At first, it was just a dim glow like looking at a star through thick fog. But as the energy field weakened, the glow became brighter and more distinct. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa Carter, who had transferred to the Endeavour for this moment. "It's really there." The sun appeared first, blazing with familiar yellow light. Then, one by one, the planets became visible. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. All exactly where they should be, as if they had never left. But something was different. Very different. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Tony Baker from the sensor station, "I'm detecting massive artificial structures throughout the system." Kate moved to his console. The readings showed enormous objects orbiting Earth. Space stations that dwarfed anything the galactic civilization had ever built. Energy signatures that were off the charts. "How big are those stations?" she asked. Tony checked his readings twice before answering. "The largest one appears to be over 200 kilometers long. And, Admiral, it's not the only one. I'm counting at least 50 major installations around Earth alone." Dr. Watson joined them at the sensor station. His face was pale with amazement. "The power output from those structures is incredible. Each one is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined." As they watched, more details became clear. Earth itself was surrounded by a shimmering energy field, much smaller and more refined than the barrier that had hidden the entire system. Massive ships moved between the orbital stations, each one larger than the biggest vessels in the galactic fleet. "Admiral," the communications officer called out urgently, "we're being scanned. Multiple sources, very sophisticated." Kate felt her heart rate increase. Defensive posture. "Shields up, but do not charge weapons. We're here as scientists, not invaders." The scanning continued for several minutes. It was unlike anything they had ever experienced. The sensors were incredibly detailed and seemed to penetrate every system on their ships without causing any damage. Then, without warning, the scanning stopped. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. It's in perfect galactic standard." "On screen," Admiral Phillips ordered. The main display flickered, then showed a human woman in a crisp military uniform. She appeared to be in her 40s with calm, intelligent eyes. Behind her, they could see what looked like an advanced command center. "Greetings," the woman said. "I am General Amy Clark, commander of Earth's defense grid. We welcome the Galactic Investigation Fleet to our solar system." The bridge of the Endeavour fell silent. A human woman, speaking perfect galactic standard, from a civilization that had been isolated for millennia. Admiral Phillips stepped forward. "General Clark, I am Admiral Kate Phillips of the Galactic Survey Corps. We thought Earth was destroyed 5,000 years ago. General Clark smiled slightly. Not destroyed, Admiral. Hidden. We've been watching your civilization's development with great interest during our absence. Watching? Dr. Watson stepped into view of the camera.
How is that possible?
Dr. Watson, isn't it? General Clark said, surprising them by knowing his name. Quantum observation windows. We've been able to monitor galactic events without being detected. We know about the Zephyrian Wars, the formation of the Crystalline Collective, and your recent peace treaties. Lisa moved closer to the screen. General, I'm Dr. Lisa Carter. I study ancient human ruins. How long have you been monitoring us? Since the day we activated the temporal isolation field, Dr. Carter. We know about your work on Kepler-7 and your theories about early human expansion. Quite impressive research. Admiral Phillips tried to process what she was hearing. General Clark, you said temporal isolation field. Are you telling us that time moved differently inside your barrier? Correct, Admiral. While 5,000 years passed in the galaxy, we experienced approximately 50,000 years of accelerated development. We used that time to advance our technology and prepare for our eventual return. The implications hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. 50,000 years of uninterrupted technological development. No wars with other species, no political upheavals, just pure scientific advancement. Why return now? Admiral Phillips asked. General Clark's expression became more serious. Because the galaxy is finally stable enough to handle our presence. And because you're going to need our help soon. Help with what? That's a discussion for another time, Admiral. For now, we need to establish proper diplomatic contact. We're prepared to receive a small delegation aboard our orbital station. Will you accept our invitation? Admiral Phillips looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her, waiting for her decision. This was the moment that would define the future relationship between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. General Clark, we would be honored to visit your station. Excellent. Please prepare a shuttle with no more than 5 people. We'll guide you to Docking Bay 7 on Command Station Alpha. Be aware that our artificial gravity and atmosphere are Earth standard, which should be comfortable for humans but may require adjustment for other species. Understood. We'll prepare a human delegation. One more thing, Admiral, General Clark said. Please instruct your fleet to maintain their current position. Our defensive systems are automatic, and while we don't wish any harm to your vessels, they will respond if they detect hostile actions. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Dr. Watson was the first to speak. 50,000 years, Admiral. They've had 50,000 years to develop weapons, defenses, technology we can't even imagine. Admiral Phillips nodded slowly, and they're being polite about it. That might be the most terrifying thing of all. She turned to her crew. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. I want Ambassador Dan Rodriguez, Dr. Carter, Dr. Watson, and Commander Morrison from the Aurora. We're about to make first contact with the most advanced human civilization in history. As the shuttle prepared to depart, Admiral Phillips looked out at Earth's orbital installations one more time. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, but they weren't the same species that had left. The question now was whether that change would be good for everyone else. The shuttle launched toward Command Station Alpha, carrying the first galactic delegation to visit Earth in 5 millennia. None of them knew that this meeting would change the course of galactic history forever. Ambassador Dan Rodriguez had been in diplomatic service for 30 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The shuttle carrying the galactic delegation approached Command Station Alpha, and the sheer size of the structure was overwhelming. 200 kilometers long, Dr. Sam Watson murmured from his seat. The entire station is larger than some moons. Dr. Lisa Carter pressed her face to the viewing port. Look at the construction, the materials, the design. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Commander Jake Morrison, who was piloting the shuttle, watched his instruments with amazement. Their docking guidance system is incredible. It's practically flying the shuttle for me. As they drew closer to the massive station, they could see other ships moving around it. Sleek vessels that seemed to flow through space rather than push through it. Some were clearly cargo haulers, others appeared to be research ships, and a few had the unmistakable look of warships. Those are human designs, Lisa said, studying the ships. But they're so advanced. 50,000 years of development really shows. The shuttle slid smoothly into Docking Bay 7, guided by systems that were far beyond anything in the galactic fleet. As they settled onto the landing platform, They could see figures in human uniforms waiting for them. The docking bay doors sealed, and atmosphere was restored within minutes. When the delegation stepped out of their shuttle, they found themselves in a space that was both familiar and alien. The basic layout was recognizably human, but the technology was incredibly advanced. "Welcome to Command Station Alpha," said a woman approaching them. She was tall, with graying hair and the bearing of someone used to command. "I am President Ellen Hayes. General Clark sends her apologies, but she's coordinating our defensive systems while your fleet is in the area." Ambassador Rodriguez stepped forward. "Madam President, I am Ambassador Dan Rodriguez representing the Galactic Council. Thank you for receiving us," President Hayes smiled warmly. "Please call me Ellen. We don't stand on too much ceremony here. Would you like a tour of the station before we begin our discussions?" As they walked through the corridors of the station, the delegation was amazed by what they saw. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of adaptive material that provided information displays wherever needed. The lighting adjusted automatically to the preferences of whoever was nearby. Gravity remained perfectly stable despite the station's rotation. "How many people live on this station?" Dr. Carter asked. "About 50,000, Ellen replied. "Though that's just the permanent staff. We have another 100,000 who rotate between Earth, the orbital facilities, and our research outposts throughout the system." Dr. Watson looked surprised. "Research outposts? We've been quite busy during our isolation," Ellen said with a slight smile. "We have active research facilities on Mars, Europa, Titan, and several asteroids, plus our deep space monitoring stations." They entered what Ellen called the observation deck. The entire wall was transparent, providing a spectacular view of Earth below, but it wasn't the Earth that any of them expected to see. The planet was covered with cities that sparkled like jewels. Massive structures rose from the oceans, and the aurora that danced around the planet was clearly artificial, forming patterns and colors that were breathtakingly beautiful. 15 billion people, Ellen said, watching their amazed faces, and every one of them has access to technology that would seem like magic to most galactic civilizations. Commander Morrison found his voice first. "How is this possible? 50,000 years is a long time, but this level of advancement—" Ellen gestured for them to sit in comfortable chairs that appeared to form themselves from the floor. "When we activated the temporal isolation field, we knew we were taking a huge risk. We could have all died, or driven ourselves extinct through some technological disaster, but we also knew that if we survived, we would have something no other civilization has ever had." "What's that?" Ambassador Rodriguez asked. "Uninterrupted development time," Ellen replied. "No wars with other species, no need to spend resources on defense against alien threats. We could focus entirely on improving ourselves and our technology." Dr. Carter leaned forward. "Why did you isolate yourselves in the first place?" "Our historical records are incomplete." Ellen's expression became more serious. "Because we encountered something that terrified us. Long before any of the current galactic civilizations existed, humanity made contact with a hostile alien force. They were incredibly advanced and completely ruthless. We realized that we had two choices: fight a war we couldn't win or disappear until we could become strong enough to defend ourselves." "What happened to these aliens?" Dr. Watson asked. "They moved on to other galaxies looking for more advanced prey. But we knew they would return eventually. Our long-range sensors detect their presence at the edge of the galaxy. They're coming back." The delegation exchanged worried glances. Ambassador Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. "When?" "Our calculations suggest they'll arrive within the next 50 to 100 galactic standard years. That's why we've returned now. The galaxy needs to be prepared." Dr. Carter looked confused. "But surely with your advanced technology, you could handle them yourselves?" Ellen shook her head. "They've had 50,000 years to advance as well, and they've been conquering other civilizations during that time, absorbing their technologies. We're going to need every species in the galaxy working together to have any chance." A new voice spoke from behind them, "Which brings us to why we've been monitoring galactic development so carefully." They turned to see a man in a scientist's coat approaching. He was middle-aged with the kind of intense focus that came from decades of research. "This is Dr. Steve Miller," Ellen said. "He's the head of our Galactic Integration Project." Dr. Miller joined them near the viewing wall. "We've been studying every species in the galaxy, learning their strengths and weaknesses, their technologies and cultures. We've identified the key civilizations that will be essential to our mutual defense. The Zephyrian Empire's military structure Ellen continued. The Crystalline Collective's energy manipulation technology, the Vorthan Republic's bioengineering capabilities, and dozens of others. Each species has something unique that will be vital in the coming conflict. Ambassador Rodriguez tried to process the implications. You're talking about uniting the entire galaxy. Not just uniting, Dr. Miller said. Advancing. We're prepared to share our technology with any civilization willing to work toward our common defense. We can help species overcome their current limitations and reach their full potential. Dr. Watson looked skeptical. And what do you get in return? Ellen smiled. Survival. Even with all our advances, we can't face this threat alone. We need allies, and we need them to be as advanced as possible. Commander Morrison had been quietly studying the view of Earth. The other species won't trust this easily. Humanity has been seen as refugees for 5,000 years. Suddenly appearing with technology this advanced, we know, Ellen said. That's why we're being very careful about how we reveal ourselves. We want cooperation, not conquest. But we also can't afford to wait too long. The threat is real and it's coming. Dr. Carter asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What if some species refuse to cooperate? What if they see you as a threat, rather than as potential allies? Ellen and Dr. Miller exchanged a look. Then we'll have to find other ways to convince them, Ellen said quietly. The coming war will affect everyone, whether they want to participate or not. As the meeting continued, the delegation began to understand the scope of what Earth was proposing. It wasn't just first contact between long-lost humans and the rest of the galaxy. It was a complete transformation of galactic civilization, driven by the need to prepare for a threat that most species didn't even know existed. Ambassador Rodriguez realized that he would be returning to the Galactic Council with news that would change everything. The question was whether the galaxy would be ready for what Earth was offering, and what they were asking in return. Outside the station, Earth continued its ancient rotation, but it was no longer the same world that had disappeared 5 millennia ago. It had become something new, something more powerful, and something that the galaxy desperately needed, whether the galaxy realized it or not. 2 weeks after the diplomatic meeting on Command Station Alpha, the galaxy was in chaos. News of Earth's return had spread through every major civilization, and reactions were mixed at best. Emperor Vexthal of the Zephyrian Empire stood in his war room, studying holographic displays of Earth's solar system. His military advisors surrounded him, all showing signs of stress and concern. 50,000 years of technological development, growled General Krexthor, the Empire's top military commander. They could have weapons we can't even imagine. Exactly why we must act now, the Emperor replied. Before they have time to spread their influence further. The humans were weak when they disappeared. We won't let them return as conquerors. War Marshal Vexandra, a female Zephyrian known for her strategic mind, studied the intelligence reports. Your Majesty, their orbital installations alone could probably destroy our entire fleet. Perhaps we should consider their offer of cooperation. Emperor Vexthal's eyes blazed with anger. The Zephyrian Empire bows to no one. We have ruled this sector for 3,000 years. We will not be replaced by refugees who hid in a hole for 50 millennia. Meanwhile, on Earth, Defense Secretary Paul Grant was in constant communication with Fleet Admiral Nancy Brooks. They had been monitoring the massive military buildup in Zephyrian space. Over 1,500 ships, Admiral Brooks reported from her command center. They're gathering forces from across their empire. This isn't just a show of strength, Paul. They're planning a full assault. Paul nodded grimly. How long before they reach our space? At their current speed, about 8 days. But Paul, there's something else. The Crystalline Collective and 3 other major powers have agreed to provide support ships. This is shaping up to be the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Paul walked to the window of his office, looking out at the bustling activity on Earth's surface. 15 billion humans going about their daily lives, unaware that the largest war fleet in galactic history was heading their way. Have we heard back from President Hayes about the demonstration? He asked. She's approved it, Admiral Brooks replied. Full galactic broadcast. Every inhabited world will see what we're capable of. Good. Let's make sure they understand that we're not the same humans who left this galaxy 5,000 years ago. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship destroyer of worlds, General Krexthor reviewed the final attack plans. The massive vessel was surrounded by hundreds of smaller ships, all bristling with the most advanced weapons the Empire could produce. "We strike fast and hard," he told his commanders. "Overwhelm their defenses before they can respond. The Emperor wants Earth captured intact if possible, destroyed if necessary." Commander Vex Kyle, one of Krexthor's most trusted officers, looked concerned. "General, our intelligence reports suggest their technology is far more advanced than ours. Perhaps we should reconsider this attack." Krexthor's expression hardened. "Are you questioning the Emperor's wisdom, Commander?" "No, sir. But I am questioning whether we're walking into a trap." Before Krexthor could respond, his communications officer called out urgently, "General, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's coming from Earth." "On screen," Krexthor ordered. The main display showed a human man in a simple civilian outfit. He was standing in what looked like a laboratory, with complex equipment visible in the background. "Greetings to all beings throughout the galaxy," the man said calmly. "I am Dr. Steve Miller, Director of Earth's Technological Development Council. We understand that our return has caused concern among some civilizations. To address these concerns, we would like to demonstrate some of our capabilities." Krexthor snorted. "Primitive propaganda. Continue course toward Earth." On the screen, Dr. Miller continued speaking. "What you are about to see is not intended as a threat, but as an invitation to understanding. We hope it will show that cooperation is far more beneficial than conflict." The camera view changed to show space near Earth's moon. A small asteroid, perhaps 50 meters across, floated in the emptiness. It looked completely ordinary. "Watch carefully," Dr. Miller's voice continued. Suddenly, the asteroid began to change. Its surface shifted and flowed like liquid, reshaping itself into a perfect sphere. Then the sphere began to grow, doubling in size, then tripling. Within minutes, the small asteroid had become a structure the size of a small moon. But the demonstration wasn't finished. The structure began to transform again, this time taking the shape of a massive space station. Docking bays appeared along its surface, energy collectors extended like wings, and defensive turrets emerged from hidden compartments. "Matter manipulation at the molecular level," Dr. Miller explained. "We can reshape any substance into any form we choose, create habitable worlds from asteroids, turn weapons into tools or tools into weapons." On the Zephyrian flagship, the bridge had fallen silent. Everyone was staring at the screen in shock. "How is that possible?" whispered Commander Vex Kyle. The demonstration continued. The newly created space station fired what looked like a weapon beam at a nearby asteroid. But instead of destroying it, the beam caused the asteroid to transform as well. Within moments, it had become a lush green world with visible oceans and continents. "Terraforming in real time," Dr. Miller said. "We can transform any world into a paradise suitable for any form of life. Desert worlds can become gardens. Toxic atmospheres can become breathable. Dead systems can become centers of civilization." General Krexthor felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air of the bridge. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was power on a scale that made their weapons look like primitive clubs. But the demonstration still wasn't over. The camera view pulled back to show Earth's entire solar system. Thousands of ships were visible, moving between planets and stations. Then, without warning, every single ship vanished. "Localized space folding," Dr. Miller explained. "Our ships can move instantly between any 2 points in space. Distance becomes meaningless when you can fold space-time itself." The ships reappeared, but now they were arranged in a perfect sphere around the Zephyrian fleet, still days away from Earth. Somehow, Earth's vessels had traveled across light years in an instant. "We could have surrounded your fleet at any time during your approach," Dr. Miller said, his voice still calm and friendly. "But we prefer to extend an invitation rather than a threat. Your ships are welcome to continue to Earth, but please understand that you come as guests, not as conquerors." The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian fleet in stunned silence. General Krexthor stared at the empty screen, trying to process what he had just witnessed. "General," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 ships. They want to abandon the mission and return home." Krexthor felt his world crumbling around him. The Zephyrian Empire had built its power on superior military technology. But what they had just seen made their most advanced weapons look like toys. "Sir," Commander Vex Kyle said carefully, "perhaps we should consider Earth's offer of cooperation." Before Krexthor could respond, New alarms began sounding throughout the ship. His sensor operator called out in panic, "General, something is happening to our ships." On the main screen, they could see other vessels in their fleet beginning to glow with a soft blue light. The glow was spreading from ship to ship, and wherever it touched, the vessels began to change. "What's happening to them?" Krexthor demanded. His science officer checked his readings frantically. "I don't know, sir, but our ships are becoming more efficient. Power output is increasing. Weapons are transforming into construction tools, and life support systems are improving." The blue glow reached their flagship, and Krexthor felt a strange sensation wash over him. It wasn't painful, but it was definitely changing something inside him. His mind felt clearer, his anger seemed less important, and he began to understand things that had been confusing before. "Evolution fields," he said suddenly, the knowledge appearing in his mind as if it had always been there. "They're not attacking us, they're improving us." Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, the same realization was spreading. The humans weren't conquering them. They were offering them something far more valuable, the chance to become better than they had ever been before. General Krexthor looked around his bridge and saw that his officers were experiencing the same transformation. The anger and fear that had driven them to war were fading, replaced by curiosity and hope. "Send a message to Emperor Vexthul," he ordered. "Tell him that the humans are not our enemies. They're our teachers, and we have a lot to learn." The galaxy was about to discover that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't destruction, but transformation, and for the first time in thousands of years, the possibility of true peace seemed within reach. 6 months after Earth's return, the galaxy was transforming at a pace that no one could have imagined. Ambassador Tony Baker stood in the new diplomatic center on Earth, looking out at delegates from 47 different species. All of them had come seeking the same thing: Earth's help in advancing their civilizations. "The Alterian delegation is requesting assistance with their agricultural crisis," his assistant informed him. "Their homeworld soil has been depleted for centuries." Tony nodded, making notes on his tablet. "Schedule them with Dr. Rachel Kim's terraforming team. She can have their world producing food again within a month." The transformation of the galaxy had begun with the Zephyrian fleet. When General Krexthor returned to his homeworld, he brought with him ships that had been upgraded by Earth's evolution fields. The technology was beyond anything the Empire had ever possessed. Emperor Vexthul had been furious at first, accusing his general of betraying the Empire. But when he saw the benefits of the upgrades, ships that could travel faster, weapons that could create instead of destroy, medical technology that could cure diseases that had plagued his people for generations, his anger turned to amazement. "The humans aren't trying to conquer us," Krexthor had explained to his emperor. "They're trying to save us. All of us." Now, the former Zephyrian war marshal worked closely with Earth's development teams, helping to coordinate aid to species throughout the galaxy. The transformation wasn't just technological, it was cultural. Species that had been enemies for centuries were working together, united by the benefits of Earth's assistance. Dr. Rachel Kim was one of the busiest people in the new Galactic Alliance. Her terraforming teams had already transformed 12 deadworlds into thriving ecosystems. Each project took only days instead of the centuries it used to require. "The Crystalline Collective wants us to help them with their energy crisis," she told Tony during their weekly coordination meeting. "Their star is dying and they need to relocate their entire civilization." "How long would it take to create a new star?" Tony asked. Rachel smiled. "Dr. Miller's team thinks they can do it in about 2 weeks. The collective will have a new home before their old star goes nova." These kinds of miracles were becoming routine. Earth's technology could solve problems that had seemed impossible just months before. Dying species were given new life. Dead worlds were reborn as gardens. And conflicts that had raged for millennia were resolved through cooperation and shared advancement. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Director Carl Thompson of Earth's Deep Time Observatory sat in his research station, studying readings that filled him with concern. His long-range sensors were detecting movement at the edge of the galaxy, and what he saw terrified him. "They're definitely coming," he told President Ellen Hayes during their secure communication. "And they're bringing more ships than we anticipated." Ellen's face on the screen showed the strain of the past months. Leading the transformation of an entire galaxy was exhausting work. "How many?" "At least 10,000 ships, possibly more. And Ellen, they're not the same species we encountered 50,000 years ago. They've absorbed technologies from dozens of conquered civilizations, maybe hundreds. How long do we have? Carl checked his calculations again. 18 months, maybe 24 if we're lucky. Ellen closed her eyes for a moment. Is the galaxy ready? Not yet. We've made incredible progress, but most species are still adapting to the technologies we've shared. They need more time to integrate the advances into their cultures and militaries. Time we don't have, Ellen said quietly. The conversation ended, leaving Carl alone with his fears. Earth had returned to save the galaxy, but they might have returned too late. Meanwhile, on the former Zephyrian capital world, now renamed New Unity, Ambassador Tony Baker was witnessing something unprecedented. Representatives from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were signing the Galactic Defense Accord, agreeing to combine their resources and technologies under Earth's guidance. This is remarkable, said Ambassador Veltar of the Crystalline Collective. Her species had evolved from silicon-based life forms, and their perspectives on time and conflict were very different from organic species. In my people's long history, we have never seen such cooperation between different civilizations. Former Emperor Vexthul, now calling himself Administrator Vexthul, nodded in agreement. The humans have shown us that our strength comes not from conquest but from unity. My people spent 3,000 years trying to dominate others. In 6 months of cooperation, we have achieved more than in all those centuries of war. The signing ceremony was being broadcast throughout the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as their leaders committed to working together for their mutual defense and advancement, but the celebration was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth. President Ellen Hayes appeared on screens throughout the gathering. Her expression was grave. My friends, I wish I could let you enjoy this moment longer, but I must share news that affects us all. The Great Hall fell silent. Delegates who had been chatting and celebrating just moments before now focused entirely on Ellen's words. Our deep space sensors have confirmed what we have long suspected. The hostile force that drove humanity into hiding 50,000 years ago is returning to this galaxy. They will arrive within 2 years. Shocked murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some delegates looked confused, others frightened. Ellen continued. This enemy has spent 50 millennia conquering other galaxies, absorbing the technologies and knowledge of countless civilizations. They are more advanced and more dangerous than when we first encountered them. Administrator Vexthul stood up. What do you need from us? Everything, Ellen replied honestly. Every ship, every weapon, every brilliant mind in the galaxy. And even then, victory is not certain. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline form flickered with what her species displayed as determination. Then we must accelerate our development. How quickly can you advance our civilizations? We can work faster than before, Ellen said. But the changes will be more dramatic. Some of your people may not adapt well to rapid advancement. Dr. Rachel Kim appeared beside Ellen on the screen. We can transform entire fleets in days instead of months. We can evolve civilizations in weeks instead of years, but it will be dangerous. The delegates began talking among themselves, weighing the risks. Finally, Administrator Vexthul called for order. I speak for the Zephyrian Federation when I say that we accept the risks. Better to face danger as advanced beings than to die as we are now. One by one, every delegation agreed. The galaxy would undergo rapid transformation regardless of the risks. Over the following months, the pace of change accelerated beyond anything anyone had imagined possible. Entire species evolved to higher states of intelligence and capability. Fleets of ships were upgraded with technologies that bordered on the impossible. Worlds were transformed from simple colonies into fortress planets capable of defending themselves. Dr. Steve Miller worked around the clock, coordinating teams that were reshaping the very nature of galactic civilization. We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, he told his exhausted staff. But if we fail, there won't be a civilization left to worry about. The changes weren't just technological. Species that had never been able to communicate before found themselves sharing ideas and perspectives. The artificial barriers between different forms of life began to break down as everyone worked toward the same goal. But as Director Carl Thompson continued his observations from the Deep Time Observatory, he realized that their enemies had not been idle either. The approaching fleet was larger than his worst estimates, and the technology they displayed was terrifying. They've learned too, he reported to President Hayes. Every galaxy they've conquered has made them stronger. They're not just an invasion force anymore. They're a collection of the most advanced military technologies from 100 different civilizations. Ellen looked out at Earth's transformed sky, where advanced cities floated among the clouds and energy patterns danced between the stars. Then we'll have to be better than the sum of 100 civilizations. We'll have to be something they've never seen before. The galaxy was preparing for the greatest war in its history, but this time, it wouldn't be fought by separate species competing for dominance. It would be fought by a united civilization that had learned to transform challenge into opportunity, fear into determination, and diversity into strength. Whether that would be enough remained to be seen. But for the first time since the threat had been discovered, there was hope. And sometimes hope was the most powerful weapon of all.